I'll just get it. Oh, who's calling me now? Christ's sake. Oh, it's the damn drunk blokes. What do they want? Hello? Yeah, I'm doing nothing. You want me to do an episode of them drunk blokes? Now? Okay, mate, you asked for it. Let's do this.
Sing a little song.
Okay, start off with that.
Yeah, baby. Scratch my back, no, scratch yours. Everybody take it down to the floor, yep. Baby. Yeah, baby. Pick up your sons and hide your daughters. Pick up your drinks and let's get slaughtered. Lock up your sons and hide your daughters. Pick up your drinks and let's get slaughtered. Let's get slaughtered.
Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is I. It is Lefty No Hand from the land of DDB presents Ketchup for the Soul. I was asked by the lovely people of them drunk blokes to do an episode for them. So here I am. I'm in the DDB studio. It's looking a bit, scary without the blokes here, but it's okay. It's okay. I think I can manage. The opening track. The opening track was done by me and the DDB voice guy probably about a week and a half ago for this very podcast. If you like it, hit me up in the chats. Leave a comment wherever you like, on Twitter, on the Den Drunk Blokes. It doesn't matter, anywhere where the DDB name is. Leave a little like. If you do like it, here is a longer version. In fact, there's a whole single of that ready to be put out onto the airwaves. So if you like it, you can download it and then you can have it as a ringtone or just an alarm clock. It doesn't matter as long as you've got it and it's there. Yeah? Right. Okay, let's begin. Now, I was a little bit worried about doing said show because, if you listen to my kind of podcast, it's a little bit different from the DDB stuff. But at the end of the day, I decided to stay true to what DDB is, the Den Drunk Blokes channel. So I enlisted a little bit of help in regards to said show, and that will come along very shortly. You'll be very surprised. I was, and very honoured to speak to the person about it, and they came through like trumps, mate. Trumps. Also, what am I going to do today? You're going to do a film review. Oh, what? A film review? Yes, a film review. I did one quite a while ago about Jurassic Park, the latest one. Can't remember what the whole name of it's called now. It really, if you listen to my review of it, you'll understand why I don't really like it that much. But I went and go and see a film recently with my main man G-Fish. Just thought it would be a bit of a laugh just to see what the film was about. And that is what I'm going to be doing my review on. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to review...
We are Venom.
That's right, I'm reviewing Venom. So before I went into this film, I've got to say don't know much about a lot of the comics in regards to origin stories and arcs. So I kind of went into Venom as thinking as a standalone film, because that's how they pretty much are advertising the film to be. So I went there with my main man G-Fish on the day of release, thinking, okay, let's just go in and see it. So you're first introduced to a spaceship from a company called Life. They've sent this spaceship up into space, obviously, and it's now crash landing onto Earth. As it crashes, this clear up team turns up from Life, and they take out these vials, which appears to be a couple of them that are filled with symbiotes. They found life in space, and one crew member which is alive. It's odd. It kind of they have the clear up team and don't just appears to leave the spaceship. Like everything else is redundant, but keep the vials of the symbiotes alive no matter what. So the spaceman that was infected. He gets put in the back of an ambulance, but then for some reason or somehow, uh, the man sits up because he's got the symbiote in him and touches the ambulance driver. She's infected now. Pass person to person. This symbiote is passed to, ends up in a little girl. Whilst that's going on, we're introduced to our main character, which is Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock is a reporter. Works for a TV show. He has his own kind of like private eye thing, and he doesn't like these life people anyway. He's got a missus who is a lawyer, which one night she leaves her laptop on and he types in a password, knows her password off by heart, and finds a lot of crap about life being taken to court for testing on people. Is introduced to the bloke who runs life. I can't remember his name. I'm not really going to look it up, to be honest with you. And he's got a chance to interview him about good questions. But all of a sudden, he loses it and he starts asking him about what he's seen in his missus' laptop. He gets escorted out. Next thing you know, he's got the sack. He goes to meet his missus. She's got the sack too. So, this is how powerful this bloke is from this life program. 6 months later, bang. There you go. 6 months have gone. We're now find out that there is this bloke from life. He's choosing homeless people to sign up for tests, and he's infecting people with the symbiotes that are around. They all die. Everyone's dying, basically. None of the symbiotes want to know any people whatsoever, and this bloke's losing his rag. He's spending God knows how much money on it, and then he's got a member of staff that isn't too happy about the fact that they're killing people just to try and get a match with symbiote and person. So she goes off and finds Eddie Brock in a bar. He's shit-faced, he doesn't care, 6 months on, he's a down and out, you know what I mean? And she turns up and goes, oh, look, this is happening. And he's like, yeah, I don't give a crap, you know what I mean? But in the end, she ends up taking him to this place. Now, this place is very secure, very tight. You know what I mean? It looks lovely. You'd think that something like that had top level security. No, it didn't. So she put him in the back seat. They went straight through in security. Then at like 3-4 o'clock in the morning, they end up walking around the place. They see a security guard. She's like, oh, hello. Well, she stuffs him in a room. The security guard doesn't even question it. Why would you? You know what I mean? Why have a member of staff there now at this time of night? Well, said he's in the room. He finds someone that he knows, an homeless bird. And she's like, all fraggled up in the room. He manages to get the door open. She falls out on top of him. She's infected with the symbiote. She touches him. That's it. He's now Venom. There's a lot of comedy lines in it. They've tried to put in a bit of humour into the film. I think it wasn't really necessary the way that they kind of introduce you to Venom, as in the suit itself. Talking of the suit, I'm not a fan. The CGI wasn't great. It really wasn't great at all. There's some fight scenes in it that were just too clunky, too dark. You just couldn't make out what was what. They've used a lot of like smoke scenes in there as such, just to cover up the fact that you can't really have a full suit all the time, which kind of let it down a little bit. Anyway, this scientist, she gets to go home and then comes back the next day, and then they find out that was her that got Eddie Brock in there, and that symbiote is missing. Now they're all after Eddie. Everyone's after Eddie. Eddie now is happy with Venom. Right, he knows now that he is Venom and everything. Then you'll find out that the other symbiote that was at the beginning of the film, that was passing from the old Chinese person, the ambulance driver, has now been in a little girl. And the little girl suddenly turns up at this space place, like it knows. And then it's just like, right, okay. And then the little girl touches the mad scientist, the leader of it all, and he becomes infected. Now, they don't die. Now, hundreds of homeless people have died whilst the symbiotes are trying to be put in their body. But no, not Eddie Brock and this mad, crazy scientist. They're all right. So they end up having a great row, a big fight. Venom, that suit, symbiote suit versus that symbiote suit. Obviously, you know who wins. Eddie Brock enlists the help of his ex-missus. She's all of a sudden happy. Got a doctor friend, stroke boyfriend that actually helps Eddie. Yeah, the storyline is very clusterfuck. I think the way that the film was put together was clusterfuck. I think Tom Hardy with his fake American voice is a little bit clusterfuck. Yeah, the fight scenes, the CGI, the script itself, and then the fact that they're trying to put a big comedy element into the Venom film itself when it wasn't really necessarily needed. By the end of the film, you realise that Eddie is talking to Venom, and he's like telling Venom it's okay, you can bite heads off of people now, but only really, really bad people. Venom's like, oh, okay, let's do that then. It made no sense. It really didn't. And I'm only saying this as a standalone film. Again, this isn't, I don't know any arc whatsoever. And then at the end of the film, when the cutscene credits, you're introduced to Carnage. Well, not Carnage himself. Cassius, someone. See, that's how little I know. And his one line in the film is, oh, it's going to be Carnage. So all of a sudden, the Carnage suit is around somewhere, and we're not introduced to it in the film whatsoever. I do like Woody Harrelson as an actor. I really do. He's been great in other films. I hope he can bring some life into the next film. I don't know if they're making this like a dark universe, their own version of a dark universe. Let's wait and see. I really think they could have taken their time and done a little bit more better with this film. Yet again, take away. There was too many roars of laughter in the cinema, and I wasn't expecting that from this film. So, The Good, the Great, Logan X, they do a film review and they will give you a rating. I'm going to use said rating like I did for Jurassic Park, and out of 10 shots, I'm going to give it a 4. 4 Sambucas, because I'm not going to see it again, and I want them drinks to be hard and stiff. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was... I did need to cut that short and sweet, to be honest with you. I didn't want to go on too much, just like I did in Jurassic Park. I realised that I probably spent about 35 minutes of me screaming at the laptop for the Jurassic Park film review. Like I say, take it as your own self. Take the opinions yourself. Go and see it. If you do know the arcs and you do know the backstories, and if it's in, let me know. I don't know. I did talk to the comic guy, Nerdism, about it, and he gave me a little bit of the backstory afterwards, so I can kind of have a bit of comparison. It's very sketchy. It is very light on the origin story, but if it's your boat, then go and float it. That's all I can say. And that was Venom. It's in the cinema nationwide now, and it's done well domestically. So, you know, you can only take me for my opinion. Go and make your own. Lovely. Go and see it. Right. Without any more hesitation, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to bring on now the very special guest. This man has helped me do this show. I asked him if he could do something, and bloody hell, he ran with it. He really did. He has a YouTube show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce you to Big Johnny G. Big Johnny G has Two Gun Pixie, the YouTube show. Now, the Two Gun Pixie deals in tabletop gaming, unboxing, previews, reviews, and also giveaways. He uploads daily. Now, if anyone can understand that, to upload daily is such dedication to the cause, it's untrue. And he came through like a superstar. So without any further waiting, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce you to my brother from an American mother, all the way from New York. That's Big Johnny G, and this is Two Gun Pixie.
What's up, blokes and blokettes and wee little blokelings all? To your buddy Big Johnny G from Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming. How's everyone doing on this side of the pond? So my buddy Lefty No Hand asked me to do a little recording for the podcast. So here I am, and I didn't know what I was going to talk about, and he suggested talking about some of my favorite games in 2018, and maybe also what I'm expecting from 2019. So I did. I made a list. I got it right here. half a dozen eggs, quarter mil. Oh, sorry, wrong list. There we go. Got the list right here. All ready to go. So I'm going to give you 3 and 3. 3 and 3, my friends. 3 great tabletop games from 2018, and then 3 for 2019. Well, we don't know if they're great yet, so I guess that segment will be called Will They Be Great? All right, so starting with great tabletop games that I've played that came out in 2018. First game I'm going to talk about right here took me by surprise, and that's why I want to start off with it, because it's not normally the kind of game that I get a lot of enjoyment from. I'll play them, I'll like them, but this really made me want to keep playing it more and more and more. And that's a game by the title of High Society by Osprey Games. Plays 3 to 5 players, ages 10 and up, and the publisher says 20 to 30 minutes. Now, we all know publisher times can be a little wonky, but these guys here, they got it pretty tight. 20, 30 minutes, definitely in. I think our first game ran about 40, 45 minutes, but you got to take in consideration it's a first game, and we were still learning the rules. So, High Society, it is a game about the turn of the century. Not the turn to the 21st century, the turn into the 20th century, from the 19th. And you're living the bon vivant lifestyle. You're living well beyond your means at times, and you're trying to just prove to everyone that you have the best stuff. You are the coolest. You are the most hip. You are on top of the art scene. You are on the pulse of society. And this game has a very interesting mechanic for bidding, a bidding system that I liked. And it balances very well with the fact that you can't go broke. If you go broke trying to buy everything you need to show off to everyone else, to rub their noses in, it really is what you're doing. If you go broke doing it, that's it for you. So the balance you have to work out from round to round while managing your money to make sure you don't lose everything. I really like the system. And me, the 20-Sided Warriors, my friends, my gaming buddies and friends, we were all actually blown away by it, and we couldn't stop playing it for a while. So High Society by Osprey Games. Check that out. That was a great game that dropped in 2018. Another one, Renegade Games Studio. Actually, it was the first game by that company that I've gotten into my shelf. Not only that, the first game that I've played, actually, and I was blown away by it, and that game is Lucidity, Six-Sided Nightmares. Now, it seems like the last year or two there's been a little bit of an explosion in set collection dice games. Not that I have a problem with that at all. I kind of like the mechanism. I mean, anything to get me chucking dice just feels good. And this is one of those games. You're trying to match sets of dice of different colors for different effects. The concept of the game is that you have delved into the dream world, and so have the other players. And you're trying to steal power from the dream world, but you also have to watch out for the nightmares, because the nightmares are trying to absorb you in a sense. They're trying to make you one of them. They're trying to turn you into a nightmare. So you have to avoid that. But if you do get turned into a nightmare, though, this is the cool part. You don't die. It's not the end of the game. You continue playing as a nightmare, and now you're attacking the other players. I mean, during the course of the game, you're sort of attacking them a little bit. Depending on some of your rolls, you can manipulate dice. So it has a little bit of a take that. But once you turn it into a nightmare, wow, that's it. It is a completely different game for you. And I mean that, too, because you have different rules, different things that you can do than the other players. And that really grabbed us by the throat the first couple of times we played that game. And another thing that I think it deserves to be on this very, very short list is that it is also a one-player game. Besides playing up to 4 players, ages 14 and up, this game can be played solo, but not like most other games. Most other games that are multiplayer but can be played solo just feels like a multiplayer game with one player. This, it has a completely different rule set for the one-player mode. You're playing essentially a different game, and that is so worth it. And it makes it almost like having 2 different games. And it really took me by surprise. Because like I said, most games don't do that if they have a one-player option. So that was Renegade Game Studios, titled Lucidity, 1 to 4 players, 14 and up, and it should take about 30 minutes. Again, I think they're pretty tight on that. The first game took us under an hour, and I don't think a game has lasted more than 40 minutes since then. The last game I want to mention for 3 great tabletop games that dropped in 2018 is one that I kickstarted, and I got a copy of it. Wow, it's sitting on the shelf right behind me. And other than doing the unboxing, I haven't had the chance to get this game to the table yet. So take what you want. I haven't played the game yet. I have not played the game, to be upfront with you on this. But every single thing I've seen about the game, every single thing I've read about the game, the videos I've watched of the playthroughs of it, just have me convinced that this game cannot suck. All right, everyone taking their bets right now? No, really. The game is called Western Legends, and it's by Colossal Games. I think this may be their first game. I'd never heard of them before. I know they have another game on Kickstarter right now that has a South American Aztec-y feeling to it or something like that. I haven't really looked into it. But Western Legends by Colossal Games for 2 to 6 players, 14 and up. And they say it's going to run 90 to 120 minutes. Again, I'm guessing your first game is going to go over that. And could be closer to 2.5, maybe even 3 hours, depending on how many players. But that is just a guess, my friends. This game, Western Legends, is 2 things that I love very much. One, it is a sandbox open world game, which gives you multiple different ways that you can earn victory points, or in this case, they're called legendary points, and win the game. Everything from basically being a wanted man, being a lawman, or being neither one of them. And you could be gambling, you could make all your money with the cattle trade, or rustle them. You can make your money mining. You could go on the lookout for criminals and bring them in. There are so many ways you can make money. Now, the other thing I like about this is it uses actual, real figures from historical American Old West, Wild West history. Characters like Bass Reeves, Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, Wild Bill Hickok. They're all there. Tons and tons of them are there. And the way you play the game has 2 sets of story cards, and you can accomplish those missions and get benefits from them. However, each of the characters in the game each have their own set of story cards, and they kind of follow the historical character's life. So you have an option here. If you want to, you can actually play a game and try to do everything, let's say Doc Holliday did. Or you can play Wyatt Earp and decide he's going to be a rancher his whole life. And you could take it any way you want, or you could take Geronimo and play him exactly the way it ran out in history, or at least the way they tell us in the history books. But this is not a conspiracy theory, my friends. But that's another reason why I like the game. Those 2 factors just played together so well. I knew this was a game I had to back. I backed it up at one of the higher levels just because I had to, because everything about this game screamed, yes, yes. So I did. So those are 3 great tabletop games of 2018. Now let's take a look ahead. Let's look into crystal balls. Crystal ball, that is, my friends. And take a look. Will they be great? 2019 edition. So there are 3 games I'm looking forward to. There's actually more. But there are 3 games in particular that I'm looking out for. 2 of them are Kickstarter games I backed, and the other is not a Kickstarter game. We'll start with that one first. By Osprey Games, who also brought us High Society, by the way, from the previous list. Osprey Games is Judge Dredd, The Cursed Earth. Now, I am not a Judge Dredd fanatic, but I am a fan of the character and the franchise. I can't sit here and nerd out on you about everything about it, but what things I do know about Judge Dredd, I absolutely love. Except the Sylvester Stallone movie. No. That doesn't exist. That never really happened, my friends. That was just some bad porridge in the middle of the night. It just gave us a nightmare. That's all. But otherwise, basically, I love everything about Judge Dredd. And Osprey Games, they're using a familiar game mechanic for the Judge Dredd Cursed Earth, and that is the familiar rules from their hit game, The Lost Expedition. It's basically the Lost Expedition with new rules to handle new things like radiation and psychic powers. I know Judge Anderson, she's one of the judges in the game, who's like my favorite outside of Judge Dredd. Just love anything that has to touch on psionic powers, psychic abilities, you know. So it takes a game that I absolutely love. It's a hit game, and it's gonna make it better under the theme of Judge Dredd. Now, I'm not saying that in that tone to be sarcastic. I'm saying that because it's an honest question. I hope they do, because I love the franchise of Judge Dredd, the concept of the characters. The best thing I ever read was the two of the three, I never read the third one, Elseworld titles by DC, Batman versus Judge Dredd. Oh, amazing. Oh, especially that very first meeting. So I'm very much looking forward to Judge Dredd: The Cursed Earth by Osprey Games. That is supposed to drop, if we're lucky, February 2019, so not a long time to wait on that. Now, the two games that I kickstarted, one of them I kickstarted because it's a one-player game, and I kind of been on the lookout for more one-player games, because if you're familiar with Two Gun Pixie, then you know that I do a lot of solo showdowns, especially on my Friday night filler show. And there's not a lot of games made for strictly one-player, solitary board games. Most of them, you could play one player, but you got to run 2 or 3 characters, and I can do that. I can multitask that, but I don't want to. There's a difference between can and want, and I just don't want to be running. Every once in a while I do it, but it's not something I'm looking forward to as a regular thing every time I'm soloing a game. So I started back in a few solo games, and one of them that's going to be released hopefully by May or June, they're talking about second quarter, that's called The Abandons, a solo labyrinth escape game. So this is a card game where you're laying down the card tiles as you're going room to room. You're trying to solve the puzzles to move on to the next room, and you're trying not to get trapped. And if I understood it correctly, the deck is the timer, kind of like one deck dungeon. So you got to get out. No two ends about it. No two ways about it. You got to get out, my friends. So I'm looking forward to that. The escape style game looks fun. I'm familiar with the deck timer thing because of One Deck Dungeon. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm hoping that that's going to be a great one-player game. Now, the other game that I backed on Kickstarter, that is a game that should have been out several months ago, but it got delayed because of another game that the partner company was doing. What I'm looking forward to is Sentinels of Earth Prime. This is a game that's being co-done by Green Ronin and Greater Than Games. I love Greater Than Games as Sentinels of the Multiverse. It is my favorite game. Well, one or two, and I say this all the time because it's true, it depends on my mood. But it is definitely my favorite superhero game of all time. And it's a made-up universe. John, the Marvel Universe is made up, and so is the DC. Yeah, I know. But I mean, this is not a familiar universe. They made this universe of superheroes up specifically just for their brand. And it works. Sometimes it's been done in the past, not to very great results. They pulled it off marvelously. Another love of mine is the role-playing game Mutants and Masterminds. I love the second edition of that. Now, the two companies, Green Ronin with Mutants and Masterminds, has teamed up with Greater Than Games to come out with a Sentinels of the Multiverse version game for Mutants and Masterminds. And much to my surprise, when I found out about it, when I clicked on it, I saw that they were using the second edition core campaign setting world, because they're up to the third edition, and I'm not a big fan of that. But the second edition I love. The core setting of Freedom City is great, and I see the Kickstarter is using all the Freedom City characters, the heroes and the villains. So I was sold right there on the spot. Two great games. This is like when I was a kid and there was a commercial for Reese's Peanut Butter. Hey, you got your chocolate in my peanut butter. You got your peanut butter in my chocolate. Two great tastes that go great together, And that's how this feels with this. So I hope, will this be a great game? I freaking hope so, my friends. If not, I'm going to be beside myself. And I mean that literally. I'm going to clone myself, sit beside myself, just so we can bitch about it. So there you go. I promised Lefty Two Hand, my man, my brother from a British mother, that I would give him some great games of 2018 and some great games of 2019. Now, just because I like you, Lefty, I'm going to give you 3 quick extra ones, what I consider shelf musts. Now, I'm not talking about the typical shelf must game that people are going to tell you need to have, like Catan or Carcassonne or Pandemic. No. We all know those games. Even Even non-board game geeks and nerds know those games. Now, I'm going to tell you 3 games that if you're not a tabletop nerd, you might not very well know about. And these games should be known about. You should have them. They should be on your table. They should be experienced by you. First up, Osprey Games again. And believe it or not, they are not paying me a penny for this. Osprey Games is, as a title, Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. Wow, has a great B-movie title feel to it. Well, the object of the game is that there is some disease ravaging Earth, so scientists have been put up in an orbiting space station to work on a cure. And what are they working on a cure with? Alien DNA, of course. What else would you use? And as you guessed it, my friends, something bad happens. And someone gets mutated into a hybrid alien human, and of course, the first thing any hybrid alien human wants to do, and it's in every damn textbook, my friends, is eat humans and turn their remains into other half-breed cannibalistic, well, they'd only be half cannibals now, wouldn't they? And just multiply and multiply and multiply. So this game, the shit has hit the fan. So much so that the power has blown out. You and your fellow players don't know who's who. Not at all. And you got to make it in the dark, as quietly as you can, to an escape pod that may or may not be working. Now this game plays out fairly fast. 20 to 45 minutes. I think most games will go about 30, 40 minutes for us. It plays out fast. There's no board. Everyone has a book with a dry erase pen, and you keep track of where you're going, and you keep notes of where you think other people are going. And whenever you do anything, you draw a card. And that card is telling you whether you tell people that there's a sound right where you are, and you give them the coordinates, at another coordinate that you get to make up, or some other effect. So everyone is guessing because they don't know if what you just told them is true or not. You don't know who's who. They don't know who's who. You're all blindly running through the dark. I mean, literally, you are running through the dark like blind mice. You need to get this game. Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. It handles up to 8 players. The game lists 2, but I kind of think that it takes away something. When you know for a fact who the enemy of you, who your antagonist is, it takes away something. Yes, it's still a blind race through the dark, but now you know who you're running from. So I would suggest a minimum of 3 players, but it does handle up to 8, 12 and up. Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space by Osprey Games. That is a shelf must. Now, along those lines, as far as hidden movement goes, there's a game by Plaid Hat Games called Spectre Ops. You got to check this game out. It plays up to 5 players. Plays as little as 2. Sweet Zone is 4. My sweet zone for the game is 5. Now, the object of the game, it's the near future. You are a spy going into the evil corporation, and you have to make it to certain nodes to do what you're going to do in the computers. That's a MacGuffin. We really don't care about that. It's just you getting in those points, and getting out without getting spotted, hopefully, and definitely without getting killed or caught. Now, the trick when you're playing 5 players is one of the guards, one of the enforcers, is secretly on your side. And you get to decide who that is at the beginning of the game. So only you and that other player know it. And that other player is, at times when necessary, giving false information to his quote-quote friends, just enough so they don't suspect him. Now, the first time we did this 5-player game, it was with one of our players had a friend in town. We invited him over to the game. He knew nothing about this game at all, decided that I knew the game. Little did he know it was my very first time playing. So I thought I would be perfect to be the secret helper for him. He got everything done, and it literally was the last turn before he made it through the exit door, and no one was even near enough to stop him. That is on the turn where they discovered A, where he was, and B, they figured out I was the traitor. It was intense. It was great. This game, the hidden movement, and if you play 5 players, the hidden traitor aspect, man, just really blows this game up. So Spectre Ops by Plaid Hat Games, 2 to 5 players. Wow, I didn't. What is the? That is 12 and up, and 60 to 120 minutes is what they say. Now, a game that I love that I think should be on every Gamer's Shelf. If you are making a game shelf, you want to check out Aries Games because they got a title that I absolutely love. Age of Conan. Age of Conan really appeals to me for no less of a reason than I am a huge fan of Robert E. Howard. I think he's one of the most underrated, under-recognized American authors, especially from his time period. His work is largely overlooked because of the genre subject. That's my opinion anyway. But his character, Conan the Barbarian, although is not quite exactly the way he would recognize him, is a fantastic character and has withstood the test of time. I am a huge fan of not only Robert E. Howard's contribute to the mythos works of his friend H.P. Lovecraft, but of Conan the Barbarian. And I had been looking for a perfect Conan game. And I almost got that one by, was it Monarch Games, is it? That one verse all game? And I'm glad I didn't, because that's just a dungeon delve. It really is. And Conan's stories in life were not a dungeon delve. I mean, it happened in the stories, but that's not what the driving factor was. He was the driving factor of all his stories. And then I find out Ares Games has this thing, Age of Conan. Now, I'm not very big on tactical war games, and that's essentially what this is. You are playing one of the four rulers of the ancient Hyborian world, and you want to stretch out and you want to make your kingdom the kingdom, the only kingdom. So you are at war with the other nations. And it plays out as such. You get to move diplomats and you get to move out troops. And it all works out in a very sort of typical fashion. Well, two of the sides, Hyperborea and, Samaria and the snakes in the south, they have access to magic cards. Which, it's not magic like you have in role-playing games you see in the movies. They're not throwing fireballs and lightning bolts at each other. But there are ways to maybe manipulate the dead and improve the troops, bolster them through magic, things like that in the most cases. But what makes this game interesting is this muscle-bound schmuck called Conan, who's traipsing around the countryside on his own little quests and adventures, constantly getting underfoot. Well, not constantly, but he's potentially always getting underfoot. And what's worse, you and the other leaders of the kingdoms understand what trouble he can be and what power he has. So you bid for his services, and you get to move him and control him, whether you want to move him against forces that are opposed to you, like Aquilonia, or maybe you want to move him towards his own adventure, because that's how the ages of Conan in the game Age of Conan advance, through his stories, through his adventures. And I call them stories because they are all taken from Robert E. Howard Conan's stories. So it's an amazing feel where you feel more like you are in the world of Conan than anything else I can imagine. Yeah, you don't get to play Conan, and that's been a complaint about the game, but that shouldn't be a complaint. Because to play Conan in a Conan game means someone else isn't playing Conan. And come on, everyone wants to be the star of the movie, right? Everyone wants to be the hero. Doesn't want to share it. And this way, it kind of gets over that. You get to have Conan in the world, running around doing the actual stories that he did, and all the while, you're bidding for his services and trying to take over the known world through military might and diplomacy. Wow. This game, I could put this game down on the table absolutely anytime anyone asks to play it, as long as there's time. As long as there's time. And speaking of time, my friends, I see this is going on to 25 minutes almost here that I've been babbling away. Don't know how this might get edited by Lefty, so that statement might make absolutely no sense to you at all. Well, thank you for giving me a moment to rap and talk. Thank you for asking me my opinion on these games, and I look forward to returning to Dem Drunk Blokes. So I'm your buddy Big John the G for Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming, and my friends, I am out of here.
Oh my God, how good was that? That is Big Johnny G from Two Gun Pixie's Legendary Gaming. Please go and follow him. Please subscribe to the YouTubes. Find him on the Twitters, the whole lot of it. Like I say, he uploads daily. The amount of effort that man puts in to the whole thing that he's got is outstanding. And without you, good sir, this show wouldn't have been as good as it is. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to wrap it up there. You can't really top that whatsoever. I want to thank them drunk blokes for allowing me to come here today in the studio to do a nice little recording for them. I want to thank Two Gun Pixie, Big Johnny G, Legendary Gaming. Please, yet again, go and follow them. Go and find them. I want to also give a quick shout out to Nerdism, our comic guy. And also, for me, go and find Lefty No Hand on DDB Presents Catch Up for the Soul. Type it in Google. You'll find me. I'm everywhere. And then just link up and just subscribe. Do the whole thing. I'm going to leave you now. Thank you very much, them drunk blokes. Love you all. Mwah. And I'm going to leave you with this. Peace.
Yeah, baby. Scratch my back, now scratch yours. Everybody take that.